I was never the superstitious type. Working nights in the Bakken Formation teaches you that most things people call paranormal are just shadows, machinery, or exhaustion playing games with your head. At least that's what I believed. My name is Daniel. I'd been a night shift operator for almost 4 years. The routine was always the same. 12 hours of darkness, the low rumble of pump jacks, and that endless open land where the wind feels too cold and too smart for its own good. That night, the wind had stopped entirely. No movement, no sound, just blackness stretching across miles of frozen dirt. It was too quiet for the Bakken. So quiet, my radio static felt like screaming. Around 1:17 a.m., I left the heated trailer to do a routine inspection of Rig 14. Everything looked normal, until I noticed it. Footprints. Someone had walked across the snow, barefoot. The tracks weren't fresh. They were almost perfectly preserved, as if the wind had refused to erase them. And the most unsettling part? They led toward Rig 14, but never came back. I scanned the darkness with my flashlight, knowing damn well no worker would wander around barefoot in freezing temperatures. Still, I followed the prints. After about 20 yards, my radio crackled. A low, broken whisper, not static. "Daniel, stop." I froze. There wasn't supposed to be anyone else on this shift. And whoever said my name felt like they were standing right behind me. But when I turned, no one was there. Only the rigs. Only the dead silence. Only the long trail of footprints leading me deeper into the darkness. And something in me, something I can't explain, told me this was just the beginning. The next morning, I drove back to County Road 17 with the kind of heaviness you feel before a funeral. The sun was out, but the road still looked wrong. Quiet in a way that didn't feel natural. No birds, no wind. Not even the usual rumble of distant farm trucks. I kept replaying last night in my mind. The pale figure standing in the middle of the road. And those eyes, almost glowing like headlights through fog. But what bothered me most wasn't the figure. It was the voice I heard right after. A whisper that wasn't mine. As I got closer to the bend where I'd slammed the brakes, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. Fresh skid marks, long, dark, and jagged, cut deep into the asphalt. Mine. But next to mine was another set. Older, faded, almost identical. Someone else had hit their brakes here hard, years before me. I got out of the truck, gravel crunching under my boots. The air felt colder here, like I'd stepped into a pocket of winter. That's when I saw it. A small wooden cross lying on its side in the grass. Weathered, splintering, the name barely readable under the dirt and moss. Emma Caldwell, 1990, a kid. My throat tightened. I knelt to pick it up, but as soon as my fingers touched the wood, the air shifted again, sharper, heavier, like someone was standing right behind me. I didn't turn around. Instead, I whispered, "Emma, is this where it happened?" And the wind, dead still all morning, suddenly dragged cold air across the back of my neck. Not just cold, breathing. A soft, shaky exhale. Right behind me. Then, in a voice that sounded like it came from the dirt under my feet, a child's whisper crawled into my ear. "He never stopped." I stood up so fast I nearly fell over. When I spun around, there was no one there. Just empty road, silent trees, and that chilling, unnatural stillness. But something new caught my eye. Down the road in the distance, a figure stood at the tree line. Small, thin, still, watching me. I couldn't see the face, but I knew who it was. Emma. And she wasn't alone. I didn't sleep that night. I tried. God knows I tried. I kept telling myself what I saw in the monitor room was just a glitch, a reflection, a shadow from a passing truck outside, anything. But then 3:11 a.m. came. Every night for the past 3 months, the building's lights switch off automatically at 3 a.m. to save power. Hallways, storage rooms, even the elevators. But at 3:11, something else happens. Something no one talks about. The lights flicker back on, only for a second. Only on the second floor, and no one knows why. I used to ignore it. I'd chalk it up to bad wiring or some lazy electrician from years ago. But after last night, I couldn't ignore anything anymore. I was lying on the staff cot, staring at the ceiling, when a faint electrical hum crawled through the building. Then, flick, flick. The lights above me buzzed sharply, brighter than usual, almost like they were straining. Then they went out again. I sat up instantly. Something felt wrong, like someone had stepped into the room. Even though the door was closed and locked, a cold breeze drifted across the floor even though the windows didn't open. I grabbed my flashlight and walked into the hallway, and that's when I heard it. A single heavy footstep on the floor above me. Slow, deliberate, too heavy to be a person walking normally. My heart froze. The second floor was supposed to be empty. We had cleared it out 2 weeks ago. Plastic sheets over every doorway, furniture removed, no tenants left, not even construction workers scheduled tonight. I shouldn't have gone upstairs, but curiosity and fear make people stupid. I climbed the stairwell slowly. Each step felt like it echoed for miles. When I reached the second floor landing, I noticed something immediately. The plastic safety sheet covering the hallway entrance was ripped open. Not cut, not torn by tools. It looked like something pushed through it with force from the inside. I lifted the plastic with my flashlight. The hallway was pitch black, except for one thing. Room 209's door was wide open, and its light was on. The same room I saw movement in on the security feed the night before. I whispered to myself, please be a wiring issue. Please be a wiring issue. But the second I stepped forward, I saw something on the floor. A footprint. Not dusty, not muddy, but wet, as if someone stepped out of a shower. Except the water was dark, almost black, and it led straight into room 209. I swallowed hard and followed the trail. When I pushed the door open the rest of the way, my throat tightened. The room was completely emptied except for one object in the center of the floor. A metal folding chair, facing the wall, as if someone had been sitting there, watching, listening. I stepped closer, raising the flashlight, and then the door slammed behind me so hard the walls shook. I spun around, yanking the handle. Locked. I wasn't alone. Something was breathing in the room with me, slow, wet, right behind the chair, and then a voice, raspy, low, broken, whispered, "You shouldn't be here." I froze. The voice wasn't human, not fully. It sounded like someone trying to speak through water, choking on every syllable. My flashlight flickered. Something was moving behind the chair. Slow at first, like someone shifting their weight, then gradually rising, inch by inch, as if standing up after years of not moving at all. I took 2 steps back, my hand gripping the locked doorknob so hard it trembled in my palm. Then the chair scraped. Loud, metal on tile. It dragged across the floor as if something nudged it with its knee, or its shoulder, or something far taller. My breath caught in my throat. I forced myself to talk, my voice barely steady. "Who's there?" No answer. But the breathing changed. It was closer now, deep, rattling, like a lung filled with thick liquid. My flashlight flickered again. Then it died. Total darkness swallowed the room. My heart hammered so violently I felt it in my teeth. I fumbled for the light switch on the wall, slapping blindly in the dark. My fingers brushed plastic finally, and I hit the switch with all the force I had. Nothing. The power in this room wasn't just out. It felt taken. The breathing stopped. The silence was worse, far worse, because now I couldn't tell where it was. Then, behind me, a sharp exhale. Hot, wet, right against the back of my neck. I spun around on instinct, reaching for anything to defend myself. But the room was black, thicker than any darkness I'd ever seen, like it was swallowing the air itself. And then a hand grabbed my wrist, cold, wet, strong enough to make my bones grind. I gasped in pain, Another hand clamped over my mouth before I could scream. Its skin felt wrong, rubbery, almost swollen, as if it had been submerged for days. A voice inches from my ear whispered, "Don't turn the lights on." My body trembled uncontrollably. It leaned closer. Not on this floor. And then, the lights in the hallway outside flickered. For a split second, a sliver of orange glow bled through the bottom of the door. And in that moment, whatever was holding me let go. It retreated backward so fast I heard the wet slapping of its feet across the tile. I didn't wait. I threw my shoulder against the door, once, twice. On the third hit, the old latch snapped and I stumbled out into the hallway, gasping for air. The second-floor lights flickered weakly above me. For a moment, everything was quiet. But when I looked back at room 209, the door slowly closed by itself. No wind, no draft. Just a deliberate, smooth push. Click. Locked again. I ran down the stairs without looking back. When I reached the first floor, I nearly collapsed. My uniform shirt was soaked, not with sweat, but with droplets of dark water smeared across the sleeves. Not mine. Something had marked me. Something that didn't want the lights on. And when I checked the time on my phone, 3:13 a.m., 2 minutes after the nightly flicker, 2 minutes after the lights shouldn't have turned back on, that's when I realized something. Whatever lives on the second floor doesn't just appear at random. It keeps a schedule, a routine, and I had interrupted it. I didn't go back upstairs for the rest of the shift. I sat behind the front desk, staring at the security monitors, trying to steady my breathing. My wrist still throbbed where that thing had grabbed me. The skin was slightly red, almost bruised, but icy cold to the touch. At 3:26 a.m., something strange happened. Camera 2B, the one aimed at the second-floor hallway, flickered to life for the first time in weeks. That camera never works. Maintenance had written it off entirely. But now, it showed a clear, grainy view of the dim corridor outside room 209. And someone, or something, was standing just outside the door. I leaned closer to the screen, holding my breath. It was tall, too tall. Its shadow stretched across the length of the hallway, long and thin like a limb that didn't belong on a human body. But the body itself, it didn't move. Not even to breathe. It was perfectly still, like it was waiting. Then the timestamp caught my eye. 3:26 a.m. Same time the lights typically fully stabilize after the flicker. The same time the janitor went missing months ago. The same time residents sometimes reported wet footprints near their doors. This wasn't random. This thing was following a pattern. At 3:27 a.m., it slowly tilted its head, not toward the camera, but toward the stairs, toward me. My chest tightened. It was as if it sensed where I was sitting. And then, in a slow, gliding motion, it walked out of frame. I didn't see it move. It didn't step or sway or react to gravity. It simply shifted positions, like the footage itself had skipped. But the timestamp didn't change. 3:27 a.m., still the same second. My hand hovered over my radio. I wanted to call someone, anyone. But what would I even say? There's a waterlogged shadow creature on camera 2B? Yeah, that wasn't happening. I replayed the footage 3 more times, hoping it was a glitch. It wasn't. At 3:32 a.m., a new notification popped up on the monitor. Second floor motion detected, East Hall. My throat went dry. That was the hallway directly above me. Then another alert. Second floor motion detected, main stairwell. It was moving toward the stairs, toward the ground floor, toward me. I backed away from the desk, my legs shaking uncontrollably. The stairwell door at the end of the lobby creaked. It had never sounded that loud before. Footsteps followed. Slow, heavy, wet. Each step echoed as if someone was dragging soaked clothing across the concrete. Whatever I'd escaped upstairs was now coming down. And it wasn't rushing. It wasn't frantic. It was steady, purposeful, like it knew exactly what it wanted. And like it knew I had broken its routine. The door handle turned. I took a step back. Then another alert flashed violently on the monitor. Power surge. First floor. The lights flickered. Not again. Not here. Not in the lobby. As the bulbs stuttered overhead, that same sickening presence filled the air. Salt, rot, stagnant water, creeping into my lungs as the stairwell door began to slowly open. And I realized I hadn't escaped the second floor. It had followed me. The stairwell door eased open just a few inches, no more, and the lobby lights began flickering hard enough to buzz. That crack in the doorway was pure darkness. Not normal, dim stairwell darkness, but a thick underwater blackness, like looking into a lake at night. I held my breath. My own heartbeat sounded too loud in my ears. For a moment, nothing moved. Then, drip. A single drop of water hit the floor tiles, then another, then several. The puddle spread outward from the door, seeping along the grout lines in long, finger-like streaks. I didn't hear footsteps now. No dragging fabric, just the slow, steady sound of water leaking into the lobby. And yet, I knew it was there, watching me, waiting. Something shifted behind the door, just barely, and the pressure in the room changed. My ears popped. The air grew colder, heavy with that briny, rotten scent like seawater trapped in old pipes. When the lights flicked off entirely for half a second, I felt movement. Not physical contact, but presence. Too close. When the lights blinked back on, the stairwell door was open wider, 6 inches now, and the puddle had doubled in size. I didn't see the figure, but I felt it. A deep, instinctual dread vibrated through my bones, like something ancient had turned its attention fully on me. I backed up behind the front desk, my hand trembling as I reached toward the emergency flashlight. Right before my fingers touched it, every single monitor on the security console froze. All cameras, all floors, except one. Camera 1A, the lobby camera. And when my own frozen image appeared on the screen, there was something standing directly behind me. Tall, thin, drenched. Its outline shuddered like a reflection in water. My breath hitched. I spun around. Nothing there. But the puddle had crawled closer to me, stretching across the floor like it was following my feet. The light surged, bright, dim, and then steadied for a moment. That's when I heard it. Not a voice, not footsteps, a sound like someone exhaling water. Long, strained, almost struggling. The kind of sound a drowning person might make if they were still trying to breathe. It came from the stairwell. My legs wanted to run, but something stopped me. A whisper of motion appeared on the lobby monitor, the reflection of a long, misshapen arm sliding down the stairwell railing, even though nothing was physically visible at the door. My mouth went dry. The thing wasn't descending the stairs. It was unfolding down them. The same way it had moved on the camera upstairs, sliding, repositioning, appearing further down without actually stepping. It was coming into the lobby in that impossible broken physics way. And it wasn't rushing, it was deliberate. And then the light surged white. For a fraction of a second, everything was overexposed. And in that flash, I saw its silhouette perfectly, tall, soaked, limbs too long, head slightly tilted as if studying me. Then the flash ended. Darkness for a split second. When the lights returned, it was gone. Not in the lobby, not in the doorway, not on any camera. Silence pressed down on me, thick and suffocating. Then, suddenly, bang! Something struck the lobby's glass entrance door from the outside, hard enough to shake the entire frame. I jumped, backing into the desk so fast I slammed my hip. A second bang hit the glass. Then a third, but the sound was wrong. Not knuckles, not fists. It sounded like heavy, waterlogged hands slapping the glass over and over. Each hit louder and colder. Like whatever had been inside was now outside, trying to get back in, trying to reach me, trying to finish what had started upstairs. The pounding on the glass kept getting louder, wet, heavy, uneven. Each hit came with that same awful, soaked sound, like someone lifting their arms from deep water before slamming them down. My instincts screamed, "Don't look," but I forced myself to anyway. Slowly, I turned toward the entrance. At first, there was nothing. Just the empty parking lot lit by 2 flickering lamps and the snow blowing sideways across the blacktop. But the glass was vibrating. The metal frame rattled with each impact. The hits weren't coming from human hands. They were coming from higher, from too high up. The wet slaps struck above eye level, near the top portion of the door. Something tall was standing out there. Something whose arms didn't match the height of its shadow. Another hit. Thump! This time the glass flexed inward. I took 2 steps back, and then the automatic lobby lights, triggered by motion, flickered on outside. Just for a second, maybe less. But it was enough. A silhouette towered near the doors, dripping, unsteady. Its outline rippled unnaturally, like a body submerged just beneath the surface of a lake. It didn't have a clear face, just the shape of a head tilted slightly, like it was studying the glass, or studying me. When the lights switched off again, the shape vanished. The pounding stopped. Silence swept through the lobby so quickly it actually made my ears ring. My breath fogged the air in short, shaky bursts. I couldn't tell if the temperature had dropped or if fear was chilling me from the inside out. Then, splash, a new sound, inside the building. I jerked my head toward the puddle on the lobby floor. It was growing again, expanding outward with slow, creeping tendrils, reaching toward me across the tiles. Even though the doors hadn't opened, more water was appearing, as if the thing outside wasn't really outside, as if it could be in more than one place at once. A sudden loud crack snapped my attention back to the entrance. A long, thin fracture spread across the glass door, top to bottom, like a spider web. That wasn't from pounding, that was from pressure. Something was pressing its weight against the door. I backed up until my spine touched the front desk. My fingers crawled blindly across the surface until they found the emergency radio. I pressed the button. "Dispatch, this is Gatehouse 7. I've got a situation. Something is trying to enter the building. I need units sent. Now." Static, just static. Then, a faint voice came through, but it wasn't dispatch. It was the same labored, water-filled breathing I heard earlier. Slow, strained, wet, like someone with lungs full of seawater trying to speak through the radio static. I dropped it instantly. The crack in the glass grew. Another split traveled across the door. I didn't know where to go. The stairwell behind me was where it had been. The lobby doors were where it was now. Every camera showed nothing but flickering light and interference. I wasn't trapped in the lobby. I was surrounded. The glass bowed inward slightly, just enough to groan. I swallowed hard. Then in the silence, I heard water dripping behind me. Inside the stairwell. Coming closer. From above. Impossible direction, impossible speed. It was approaching again from inside, while also pressing against the front doors. 2 places at once. Or one thing ignoring physical locations entirely. I didn't know which was worse. Another crack, another drip. I clutched the flashlight, knuckles white, and whispered to myself, "Please, just let me make it through this shift." And then, the power went out. The lobby plunged into total blackness. Only the dripping continued. Getting closer, the lobby went pitch black when the power cut. No emergency lights, no glow from monitors, nothing but darkness, and that wet, creeping sound. I could feel it before I could hear it. The air shifted. The temperature dropped. The damp smell thickened, clinging to my skin like a living thing. The dripping continued, now louder, faster, closer. all around me. I fumbled blindly, knees scraping against the desk, fingers sliding across cold metal. Finally, my hand found the emergency flashlight. I clicked it on. The beam sliced through the darkness, and I froze. The puddle had grown across the lobby floor, spreading like a shallow, moving tide. It glimmered black in the flashlight, reflecting shapes I couldn't make sense of. Limbs? Faces? Shadows pressed just beneath the surface? They moved just slightly, as if the water had a pulse. Then I noticed the lobby doors. The glass was bowed inward, as if something heavy pressed from outside. Yet when I aimed the flashlight toward it, nothing was visible beyond the distorted reflection. No shadow, no silhouette, just black. My ears picked up another sound. Not footsteps, not a voice, whispers. So faint I thought I imagined them at first. But then, the whispers grew louder, almost synchronized with the dripping water. The words were broken, gurgling, wet, inhuman. You shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be here, you shouldn't be here. I spun toward the stairwell. It was open. The water seemed to flow down the steps now, not through gravity, but deliberately reaching toward me. The dripping from above sounded louder than ever, echoing like heavy rainfall indoors. I realized with a sickening certainty, whatever was in the building could move through the water. It didn't need stairs. It didn't need doors. It could be everywhere at once. My only option was the fire exit. I ran toward the emergency exit, flashlight trembling in my hand. The water now reached mid-calf, moving unnaturally fast. Every step felt like pushing through sludge. I could hear wet slapping sounds behind me, growing closer, faster. Then, just as I reached the metal door, it opened. Slowly, no wind, no handle being turned. It simply swung outward on its own. A flash of the outside lights revealed the parking lot. Empty, covered in snow. But the air smelled wrong. Salty, rotten. And in that instant, I felt a hand on my shoulder, cold, wet, too strong to ignore. I didn't look back, I didn't scream. I yanked the door open and dove through into the snow outside. I rolled onto the icy ground, scrambled to my feet, and ran toward the perimeter fence. Every instinct told me not to stop, not to look back, not to breathe too deeply. But then, I did look back. The lobby door was closed again. The lights flickered back on, and for a brief moment I could see the water recede as if nothing had happened. The puddle vanished. The shadows vanished. The lobby looked normal. Too normal. And yet I knew better. I knew what had followed me. I knew it was patient. I knew it would return. I didn't sleep that night. A wink. Not a single thought of rest. I drove home under the weak glow of the streetlights, the snow crunching beneath the tires, every shadow along the roadside twisting my nerves tighter. The memory of the lobby, its black water, the dripping, the whispers, followed me in every blink. I convinced myself I had escaped. I told myself it couldn't leave the building, but deep down I knew better. At 3:03 a.m., my phone buzzed. A single text. No sender, no number. Just words. You shouldn't have left. I froze. The snowplow lights of a passing truck reflected off the windshield. I scanned the empty road. Nothing. No one. The text came again. Same number, same words. And then my car radio, dead for months, flickered on. Static, a voice, labored, wet, broken. Don't go back, don't go back, don't go back. I slammed my hand on the console, cutting the radio, but it restarted immediately. The voice continued, clearer this time, almost human. It follows, it waits, it knows. By the time I got home, my apartment felt different, not safe, cold, smelling faintly of salt water, wet floors, and decay. I checked the windows, locked. Doors locked. Yet I could hear it, a faint, wet dragging sound moving across my hardwood floor. The shadows in the corners were too dark, and the dripping always dripping. I grabbed a flashlight and swung it across the living room. Nothing. But I could feel it watching, judging, waiting. Then I realized it didn't need to be inside physically. It could be anywhere. Creeping, following schedules, marking its territory. And I knew one terrifying fact. It wasn't done with me. It wouldn't stop. Not tonight, not ever. Because some things don't follow the rules of nature. Some things are patient, some things wait until the next 3 a.m. And I would never forget the sound that followed me all the way to my bedroom. Wet, heavy breathing, gurgling, waiting. I didn't sleep that night. Not at all. Every shadow in my apartment felt alive, stretching, twisting, waiting. When the clock hit 3:03 a.m., my apartment lights flickered. Not the bulbs, the whole room. The air grew heavy, wet, and cold, like I was standing under a waterfall that wasn't there. Then I heard it. Drip, 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 coming from the bathroom. I knew better than to go check. But I had no choice. The sound was deliberate, measured, calling me. My flashlight in hand, I moved toward the bathroom. The dripping grew louder. The air reeked of salt and decay. I flung the door open. The floor was completely covered in water. Not ankle deep, knee-deep. And inside, a silhouette moved. Tall, thin, distorted. Limbs stretching impossibly into the ceiling and walls. I froze. My flashlight shook in my hand, its beam revealing hundreds of tiny faces pressed into the water surface. Eyes staring, mouths open, screaming silently. And then the gurgling voice came from everywhere at once. "You shouldn't have left! You shouldn't have left! You shouldn't have left!" The water surged forward, not splashing, not spilling. It flowed like a living thing, curling around my legs, pulling at me, trying to drag me in. I stumbled backward, fought for footing, felt the cold, wet hands of something beneath the water grip my ankles. My last thought before the room went completely black. It doesn't just follow schedules. It collects them. When the sun rose the next morning, my apartment was empty. No water, no footprints, just a wet mark on the bathroom floor, in the shape of a chair. And if you walk past my building on County Road 17 around 3:03 a.m., you might hear the faintest gurgling, a whisper that says, "You shouldn't be here." If this story kept you watching, there's another real horror waiting for you. Click on the screen and don't watch it alone.